How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Stand Focused for Jesus. In this video, we're going to just drop a little nugget because you have all this arguing in regards to who the black people, or so-called black people, are or who they are not. I've done many videos on this, discussing and proving from a biblical and historical standpoint that the Jews, the physical Jews, are what we call a people of color, or what we call black. And as I stated in my previous videos, I will continue to give more and more evidence because the evidence is overwhelming from all around that historically everybody knew that the so-called Jews, meaning that the Jews of today, those so-called Jews, where they came from. And everybody knew who the true physical Jews of the flesh, who they were. This ties in directly with Psalms 83. This is why we addressed that. There was a conspiracy. There was a confederacy created amongst all nations. Even Ishmael, who was historically what we call black, of the darker persuasion. Esau, who was not the white man, what we call the white man, who was also of the darker persuasion, who mingled his seed with Ishmael to give way to the modern day Arab, what we call Arabs. And then they mixed in too with the other nations. They did it purposely. Now we know they had wars in between those time periods or whatnot, and that's just how it goes. What they did, that's what they did. But if you notice, what did God tell Israel to do every time they came in contact with other nations that they fought against? God told them to kill all the people, the women, the children, the animals, everything, to wipe out their enemies. Now, some of you don't want to accept that. Hey, that's your choice. But you got to understand what was going on during that time period, and the rules of war, the rules of engagement, and all these different things and whatnot. I think it was Joshua who, I may be mistaken, but Joshua had gotten in trouble because he made a covenant, he made an agreement with God's enemy, and it came back and bit him in the butt, and it's still biting us in the butt today. So you got to understand that from the beginning, since Satan decided he wanted to rebel, how many every years that was, that this war has been going on, and on this physical plane, people are getting killed and everything. It's a physical manifestation of what's going on in the spiritual. We got to understand these things to stop looking at things from a fleshly standpoint. Like, oh my God, God told him to go in there and kill everybody and this and that, this and that. Well, for one, a lot of these nations that God told them to go in and slaughter, they were nations of giants. They were nations of giants. Secondly, remember, this is a spiritual war. Everybody keeps on looking at the physical aspect of it. This is a spiritual war. So we have to understand these things. But I want to drop this nugget, and it's titled, and I mentioned this in another video, but I want to speak about this directly. And this is observations concerning the increase of mankind, peopling of countries, etc. So what is it? It is a short essay written in 1751 by Benjamin Franklin. It was circulated by Franklin in manuscript to his circle of friends, but in 1755 it was published as an addendum, probably pronounced that wrong, I apologize, in a Boston pamphlet on another subject. It was reissued 10 times during the next 15 years. So, what is it entitled? The essay examines population growth and its limits, writing as, at the time, a loyal subject of the British Empire. Franklin argues that the British should increase their population and power by expanding across the Americas, taking the view that Europe is too crowded. So look at the context a little bit. Franklin projected an exponential growth, doubling every 25 years in the population of the British colonies, so that in a century, the greatest number of Englishmen will be on this side of the water, thereby increasing the power of England. As Englishmen, they would share language, manners, and religion with their countrymen in England, thus extending English civilization and English rule substantially. Their religion was not what we call Christianity. Their religion wasn't even Catholicism, which Catholicism, you think about it, it branches off from the same religion, same belief that the so-called founding fathers, what they held, which is the religion of Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt. It's written in the Constitution, it's written in the Declaration of Independence that Congress is not supposed to make a law that shows favoritism to any religion. So ultimately, the religion of the founding fathers and what Roman Catholicism is Luciferianism. Roman Catholicism is a branch of Luciferianism. The founding fathers, they were Luciferians. Franklin viewed the land in America as underutilized and available for the expansion of farming at the expense of the Native Americans that were already here. Thus enabled the population to establish households at an earlier age and support larger families than was possible in Europe. The reason that he wanted to do this was to increase what he considered white people. And we're going to see that, because he was afraid that blacks, they were going to take over because we were already the majority. It's out of his own mouth. The limit to expansion reached in Europe but not America is reached when the crowding and interfering with each other's means of subsistence, an idea that would inspire Malthus. Historian Walter Isaacson writes that Franklin's theory was empirically based on the population data during his day. Franklin's reasoning was essentially correct in that America's population continued to double every 20 years until the 1850s, when it surpassed England's, and continued until the frontier disappeared. Protectionist policies in 1750 led to the prohibition of iron works in America. Franklin's essay argued against such policies by advancing the position that labor is more valued in self-owned farming given the availability of land in America. Well, how was land available in America if you had Native Americans here? So we know what went down. No man continues long a laborer for others, but gets a plantation of his own. Growth in the colonies should increase demand for British manufacturing, making protectionism unwise, an argument appreciated by Adam Smith. So they wanted the land so they could farm, and then they could have their own workers, hint, slaves, working their plantation, and then they could train those slaves to with the teachings that they held to. And that's what he ultimately did with a lot of his slaves. Franklin argued that slavery diminished the nation, undermined the virtue of industry, and diminished the health and vitality of the nation. He argued that slavery was not as cost-effective or productive as free labor. So he was torn between the two of them, and I'll cover that in another video. So in the last part, he says Franklin argued that slavery diminished the nation. How did it diminish the nation? Because the whole essay was talking about increasing their kind, their nation, by getting this farmland, by farming it, and getting this farmland to people at a young age, so they could be, so they could be settled, and then start to have children at a young age, which would increase the nation. That's why it says that slavery, it undermined the virtue of industry and diminished the health and vitality of the nation. Because if they kept on bringing in slaves, then it wouldn't allow who he deemed the white race to increase. It wouldn't allow them to increase, because you would have a influx of all these colored people that would eventually take over, because colored people during that time period were considered the majority. And technically they still are, but America lies and tries to skew the numbers under the guise of confusion, to think that what we call black, so-called black or whatnot, that they are the minority. He argued that slavery was not as cost-effective or productive as free labor. The thing is, they didn't want to work either. So I covered that before, how he went back and forth and what was the real reason that he didn't want blacks over here. In my previous video, or one of my previous videos, talking about Benjamin Franklin was a white supremacist. You can go check that video out if you want to. But let's continue forward. So this is the essay, and you can go get it offline. It's a popular essay. You can also order it in book format. So you can see this is nothing that we are making up. These are his own words. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we're going to pick up right here in the second to last paragraph where it says and we're going to read down. And it says, and since detachments of English from Britain sent to America will have their places at home so soon supplied and increase so largely here, why should the Palatine Boers, Germans, be suffered to swarm into our settlements, and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion? So he makes a connection with his language and his customs being distinct from the Palatine Boers, being distinct from their language and their customs. He says that his complexion is different from the Germans' complexion, just as his language and his customs were different from the Germans, the ancient Germans of his time period, of their language and customs. Now, why does that matter? Let's continue reading. Which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. Let me read that one more time. Which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. Remember back in the day, and even still now, they had the one drop rule, right? Because there's really no such thing as a pure white race. It's foolish. But he believed that. So it continues on. It says, all Africa is black or tawny. Black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. So he said that America, if you take away the newcomers, America was a wholly black and tawny, or black or tawny. Then he says, and in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. Remember, he said the Palatine Boards, which are the Germans. He said, as are the Germans also. He said the Germans are of a swarthy complexion. The Saxons only accepted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. Not my words, y'all. Benjamin Franklin. So Benjamin Franklin knew what was up. But today, people exalt Benjamin Franklin, but they don't want to accept this truth that Benjamin Franklin knew that all these nations of old, they were what we call black. So he continues on. He says, I could wish their numbers were increased. Who? White people, the body of white people on the face of the earth. And while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet, genocide, by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars or Venus, why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? Benjamin Franklin was a white supremacist. He was a racist. He did not want to be around what we call black people, because black people back then and even still today are what we consider the dominant race, the majority. That's what I mean when I'm saying dominant, meaning the majority. So why would he relate that to the inhabitants of in Mars or Venus? Who do you think he was talking about? So in his eyes, he believed the gods that they are white. And he says, why should we, in the sight of superior beings, the gods, darken its people? Meaning the white people. He believed that white people came from the gods. So you hear all this stuff about the Anunnaki and, you know, how we came from them. That's garbage. That's what they believed. That's what they believed. So people get confused about this stuff. If you just study history and ultimately allow the spirit to lead you, you'll understand this stuff. You'll understand where this stuff comes from. Just like the whole argument with flat earth. People think that the whole argument about flat earth is something new. That's not new. I can show you in ancient Egypt where the ancient Egyptians thought the earth was flat. But the flat earthers, majority of them, they're not going to tell you that, are they? Because they don't want to be fair in their judgment. They don't want you to make a fair judgment. They want you to make a judgment based off of only what they tell you. They don't want to tell you that, hey, go look at the evidence, go look at both sides. And you hear me tell you that all the time. My view of the earth not being flat is not just based off of me being biased toward the earth being round. It's based off of looking at the whole evidence, because remember that we are in court. So if I'm in court, then I must hear the argument of the person that is going against me. I mean, I can't sit there and say, yeah, I'm not going to listen to anything that they're saying, because I have to be able to refute the points that they're making. And if I'm not intensely listening to the points that they're making, then how can I properly refute them? Because then they're going to turn around and then they're going to tell me a new one, because they're going to be like, well, I didn't say that. Well, that's not the point that I made. They're going to tell me a new one because I wasn't listening. So in a court setting, you have to listen to both sides. And that's what I tell y'all. Go look at both sides of the argument. Because if what you put forth a hypothesis or theory or whatnot, and once you do that, it's not the things that you can prove your hypothesis or theory easily by the things that you believe support it. But a hypothesis or a theory, what really makes it hold up is when you go and find things that speak against or that can disprove your hypothesis or theory, or things that you think can disprove it. And when those things that you think can disprove it, they don't disprove it because they can't, then your hypothesis is that much more strong. That's why he said that we are made strong in our weaknesses. We are made strong in our weaknesses. The weakness of an argument is the argument against that very argument. That's the weakness of the argument, not in the strength of it. Because the strengths are going to speak for itself. But it's what we consider, oh, there's holes in this. When somebody's poking holes in something, that's where an argument is that much more stronger, because those so-called weaknesses, they are strengthened by those arguments because it supports the strength of that argument that much more. So understand that. He says, why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? They understood these things, but for some reason we are so ignorant in these days. We're so ignorant, we're so smart, but I can't tell. Just because there's an increase of knowledge and wisdom in the world doesn't mean that people have gotten smarter. They don't even know how to handle it. There's an overload. They don't know how to handle it. When here is Benjamin Franklin himself saying, why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? Will we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red, but perhaps I am partial to my complexion, but perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country. For such kind of partiality is natural to mankind. That's a true statement. We are partial to our own kind, to our own kindred. So let's go look at tawny and let's go look at swarthy, because he said that all Africa is black or tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers wholly so, and in Europe the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes, as are the Germans, are what we consider or what we call a swarthy complexion. So let's go look up these terms. So let's get these definitions. As we see, we are on Online Etymology Dictionary. Pretty good dictionary. You see me use this a lot. And we see tawny. Tawny means what? Tan colored. Of or like the brownish yellow of tan, leather. Dark brown, tan. So tawny means dark brown. And we know we're talking in regards to skin color. So let's look at swarthy. Swarthy, dark colored, especially of skin. Dark colored, especially of skin. So when Benjamin Franklin was saying that these different nations, they were tawny or swarthy, he was saying they were dark colored and they were brown. They were darker. They were of a darker persuasion. Then we look up the root of swarthy, which is swart. It literally means black. Black, dark, of night. Clouds, also figurative, wicked, infamous. So it just depends on the context of it. Um, Way back in Old Norse and German, to give you the breakdown of Old Norse and German right there. Swartz in Gothic, dark colored, black, dirty, dark, black. So, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. But let's get some more witnesses. This is Webster's 1828. Swarthy, being of a dark hue or dusky complexion. Tawny. So tawny and swarthy, they go hand in hand. Then it even quotes that. It says the Moors, who we know were what we call black people, Spaniards and Italians are more swarthy than the French, Germans, and English. So you had a mix of people too, because we know that Benjamin Franklin stated that the French were of a swarthy complexion, of a black complexion, black as the swarthy African. Let's look at tawny, of a yellowish dark color, of a yellowish dark color, like things tan, or persons who are sunburnt, as a tawny Moor or Spaniard, the tawny sons of Numidia, the tawny lion. So brown, black and brown in regards to skin color, they are pretty much interchangeable. That's why we consider black people black and white people white. So let's look up this also, Native American or American. Pertaining to America, a native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Copper colored races. So we look at copper. Supposed to be so called from Cyprus, an isle in the Mediterranean. This opinion is probable, as the Greeks called it Cyprian brass, brass of Cyprus. Interesting. Don't we quote scripture that talk about Jesus like that? In this case, copper was originally an adjective, a metal of a pale red color tinged with yellow. Next to gold, silver, and platina, it is the most ductile and malleable of the metals, and it is more elastic than any metal except steel. Interesting. It is more elastic. Jesus is more elastic. He is more forgiving. Jesus is more forgiving. Jesus is Jesus can stretch. He's willing to stretch and bend more to give his grace to people. You see, it all ties together. We just have to have spiritual eyes and spiritual ears and open our hearts to receive what's right in front of our faces. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. And we know what pennies look like, copper colored pennies. Why do they use copper to describe the Native Americans, their aboriginals, as the copper colored races? It's a brass. It's a bronze. I've covered that in another video too, way back. But let's get some more evidence. More witnesses. Same thing in the Webster's Revised Unabridged Dictionary, having well, what are we looking at? We're looking at swarthy. Having a dark or sunburned complexion, tawny, tawny, swarthy, swarthy. They're interchangeable, as you see. In the Strong's Hebrew, I'm gonna show you that all languages, they're all connected in their meanings. It just depends on the context of it. Now look at this. It says Kedar, perhaps swarthy, a son of Ishmael, also his descendant. And then it gives you the other one, Kadar, definition, perhaps swarthy, a son of Ishmael. And we know that the Ishmaelites, they were a people of color. They were dark-skinned people. So if Ishmael and his descendants were swarthy and they mixed in with Esau, who was also swarthy or tawny, then what does that tell us? Who was Ishmael's father? Hello, who was Ishmael's mother? His mother was what we call an African. We call her African. She was swarthy too. So even, let's say that Abraham just so happened to be what we call white. He slept with a black woman. The children would have been mixed. They would have been mixed. And you can't sit here and tell me that you don't know the difference when you see a mixed child and what we call a white person. Obama is mixed, but what does Obama look like? Obama looks black. So even if they were mixed, they would still, their black features would still be predominantly shown. What's that girl, that woman that she just married the prince? She's mixed. I forgot her name. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but y'all know who I'm talking about. She just married the prince. She's mixed. Her dad is white, her mom is black. And her dad is, dad is white. But you look at her, what does she look like? She looks mixed. She looked like a light-skinned black person. So these give you some more definitions. From the phonetic language, you get swarthy, which means the same thing, black. Sakar, swarthy. That's even in the scriptures. Yeah, this word, chum, darkened, dark brown or black. From an unused root meaning to be warm, i.e., by implication, sunburned or swarthy, blackish, brown. Black is a generic term. It really has everything to do with brown because we come from the dirt. Then this is from another book. It says, his long hair and beard surrounded features somewhat swarthy from the rays of the hot sun, and he rode on the side of the ass's colt that seemed almost, and then you get the rest of it. This is from a book. They're talking about Jesus driving out the money changers. That Jesus, his features were swarthy. They say somewhat, but we know that Jesus was a man of color. And he got some more stuff, but you get the point. You get the point. So with that being said, I'm gonna close it out. Y'all have a blessed day. God bless each and every one of you in Jesus Christ's name. As always, stay focused for Jesus. And as you know, truth is not debated. As you see, it is declared with facts and love. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If it was edifying to you, be sure to do your part and share it on all your social media outlets, websites, and forums. Your help is greatly appreciated to help fight this war and reach lost souls. Don't forget to like, dislike, and/or subscribe. Be sure to also check out our website, Staying Focused for Jesus .life. And make sure you check out that resource section, which has a lot of videos that I share and some other stuff, books, documents, PDF, websites, many things, and it's growing daily as I add to it. Also follow us on Facebook for even more content. Staying Focused for Jesus on Facebook.
Squeeze it so tight, get the last drop, till there's nothing left, until we pass out. Keeping us around to clean up the mess and take the garbage out, but we'll be trash next. Create catastrophes to speed up the process. Depopulation, agenda, progress. News tell half-truths, hidden in plain sight. They know with it Kool-Aid, but gave us cyanide. They know we don't see it. They know you can't see it. What they've done to us. Open your eyes. Lemonade. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, it ain't safe for us. They made it so sweetly, so it will be easy to carry their plans out to lemonade. Oh, lemonade. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, it ain't safe for us. Made it too easy while we're busy sleeping. They carry their plans out to lemonade. Oh, voluntarily, they hold us hostage. Pay to receive fabricated knowledge. False education, standing ovation for my degree in indoctrination. Georgia Guidestones plainly tell us that they plan to eliminate us. Conspiracy theory, we see no dilemma as they quietly wipe out billions. They know we don't see it. They know you can't see it. They know what they done to us, taking us down. Lemonade. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, it ain't safe for us. They made it so sweetly, so it will be easy to carry their plans out to lemonade. Oh, lemonade. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, it ain't safe for us. Made it too easy while we're busy sleeping. They carry their plans out to lemonade. Oh, invisible ones behind the scenes, like Geppetto, pulling the strings. Master plan, dumb us all down. Eat what they feed us, try not to think. Carry on, nothing to see as they continue with their killing spree. We wasting time on trivial things.